Welcome to TorahTalk, brothers and sisters. Welcome to TorahTalk, brothers and sisters. Brothers
breaking my heart with your unbelief. I ain't gonna wait forever. Who do you think you're fooling? Who do you think you're fooling? You're either hot or you are cold. And people, it's all or nothing now. People now.
Brothers and sisters, welcome to the TorahTalk Show with Lou White and Mark Davidson.
The Sickle Series,
a Torah Institute production.
Good morning.
How are you, brother?
I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, very good.
Well,
Good morning.
good morning. And I know you're up late and you're really tired.
That's all right. Did you get my email?
I did, and I just
Okay.
glanced at it just a few moments ago. I really haven't had time to really say anything about it. What?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a different kind of, what do you call it? One of these.
It's left. Flashcard.
There you are.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Mm.
Mm.
Oh, fantastic.
So,
So you had
anyway,
your long day yesterday, did you, at work? Your long day?
I had a couple of long days, but the longest day is the second day of the week for me. The first day of the week is kind of long, but the second day is really long.
Yep.
And this is our goal. This says email error, huh? Okay, well, that's fine. I was trying to send somebody something. My son wanted a picture, and I had to send it, and I realized it was 86 megabytes. That's way too big.
Yep. Yeah.
Love one another. That's our objective. You know, we aren't going to burn anybody at the stake today.
No.
That's the thing, you know.
Hi, sister. How you going?
Hi, just fine. Good to see you.
Yeah, you
Have
too.
a blessed day.
Well,
Did you,
we're
sit down, sister. Have you haven't seen you for ages. Sit down,
What was
sister.
that?
Sit down, sister.
sit down.
Why?
Oh, here.
Why?
Did you hear from Victoria?
Yes,
Yeah.
we got an email. How's that going?
Yeah, he's doing much better, and
Good.
they've taken him down to Cairns, rushed him down to Cairns, which is a much bigger hospital, and they put him on blood thinners, I think, and things. Blood pressure's come right down again, which is great.
Yeah.
And so he's on the road to recovery. So it's just
Okay.
It's YAHUSHA.
yeah.
Okay.
Because, I mean, he's all joyous and, yeah, whatever's happening, yeah, but she's like, yeah, I don't want to lose you. Just because you're ready to go doesn't mean anyone else is.
I was just asking Phyllis what Victoria must be going through.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
There's no way to describe how scary it is. I get scared.
Yeah.
No, it looks like it's just facing me.
Yeah.
I get scared sometimes just thinking about. I mean, the thought just comes into my mind. What would happen is,
Yeah.
no, there's no words to describe
Mm.
how a wife would feel.
Yeah.
So I know. I'm so relieved. Thank you for letting us know.
Yeah. So he's doing better. I think they might. They're doing an angiogram tomorrow, I think. So they're going to find out what the actual problem is. Maybe they might have to widen one of the vessels or put a shunt in or something. I don't know. But yeah, we'll find out. So.
Well, I don't know which is worse, being sick and having the problem or being in the care of doctors.
Yeah.
The doctors are real scared.
They tinker a lot, and they tinker until they kill you.
And some medicine they put you on, you're on it for life.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not good. But whatever, we just have to trust that YAHUSHA has everything under control.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, it's just another big reminder we have to look after ourselves, eh? Your camera just went out.
How's it doing now?
Blurry. Here we are.
Is
We're
it
back. We're back.
There's a dog.
Yeah.
The message on the machine, on the screen, I mean, just told me that my sound was too loud.
Okay.
They said there's a high volume of sound coming from the speakers.
Yeah.
That's the way that is. And I have to move things to get to the,
And he doesn't have a monitor, so he can't see if he's in the picture or not. How does that look?
Oh, he's fine.
I don't
He's
smell
fine. Oh, we're just chilling out today.
Oh, we're just chilling out today.
Yeah.
Well, did you get the passwords for MailChimp?
Yes, I did. I'll have a look at it.
Okay.
Yeah. When you said some of those DVDs we sent over were damaged, it wasn't a whole heap, was it?
It wasn't the DVDs. It was just the cases. Lou's already ordered replacement cases. He can get them real cheap.
Wasn't too many, was it?
Oh, not quite 60 or so.
No, not that many.
Not
It was
that
about
many?
30.
Oh, it was, yeah. I'm going to order 100, though.
And some of them aren't that damaged. They're just a little bit of a chip. I mean, I went through and counted them, so we'll replace them and we'll take and if you wanted to, if you just sent us the sheet of paper, the artwork that slips inside, and the DVDs somehow in a package so that they'll be protected. I don't know how you do that. Maybe you're still on the spindle that they come on. And if you can just send us that stuff, I don't know if they can ship that way or not. But anyway, or actually, you don't even wait a minute. You don't even have to send us the DVDs. Just send us the master, maybe a couple to make sure that they're both good. The artwork. Yeah. That's all you need.
The flat artwork.
Just the artwork and pile. That's the hardest thing.
We don't need the DVDs. We just need we can use one of these for a master.
Yeah, you use
all we need is paper.
Yeah, just give us a couple masters. I mean, for future.
Yeah.
In the future, just a couple masters. Yeah. The flat artwork.
Yeah.
And we can go with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we can get the DVDs here, and just copy them.
And we can buy those cases.
That's much better because that's why we ended up doing it C-mail, because I think to do the normal mail was going to be like $400 or something, and it was just something incredible. So we did the C-mail, and it looks like they've just chucked it. Just been
what happens is those huge sky lifts that they have in these mountainous areas with the huge iron wheels and the cable. Well, those big iron wheels are shipping along with those little boxes. And that's what happens when the ship jostles around. The people don't really intentionally do it, or maybe the guy that's picking up the big iron wheel throws it and it just lands in the box.
That's insane.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But it's real. That's what happened.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, Amy's parents came up down to see us today. So they're all happy. The kids are all happy, and there's presents and all sorts of stuff happening. So they're all happy. She's just had. She's healing well, and she's. Amy was shocked though, because she's really chipper on the phone, but then to see her in person, it's really taken a big knock on her. She's really weak, and she's got she's got a cushion. She has to put a cushion under the seat belt on her, and so she's really in that state where she's real fragile. So it's hard for Amy to see that, but So
I've been there with one. I haven't done a double one, but I know what she's going through somewhat.
It's really hard for the husband too.
Yeah. You know, when you're one flesh, whatever happens to the other body, and that's what Luke kept saying. It happened to him too. You know, whatever happened to me, it happened to him.
Yeah.
But you're looking really good today. You look healthy and happy. How you doing?
This must be how I am on caffeine. I was up till all hours last night because I'm going to do this newsletter, and I got into it. Amy said, "You're crazy. You know you got to get up. You know you got to be up late tomorrow night to talk to Lou. You're just insane." I said, "Yep, Sabbath tomorrow night." So, yeah. So it's all good. All good down in the coot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very exciting.
We love all those videos you send. They're great.
Yeah. We won't do it any for a while now because we're staying put.
We have a really good connection. The speed is really amazing.
Yeah.
I know.
Amazing.
Well, explain a little more about this radio thing that you're going to be doing. It was kind of hard and sketchy in your email.
Well, they've got a community radio station, and they have. I think there was only one girl who looked about my age. The rest of them were over 50, I think, and it's all volunteer work, and they just get on the radio. And so the girl, when I walked in there and got a tour of the place, she was just playing Beatles music, and she was my age. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. And some of them do talk show over morning. They chat with locals. Other people play classical music, whatever. It'd be like yourselves if you didn't work. If you didn't work and you felt like going and playing whatever music you like to play. And it's volunteer work. The whole town listens, or they don't listen, whoever's got the radio on. And so I was cutting the hair of some lady. She was about 65 years old, and she said, I started asking more questions, with these things in mind. And she said, oh yeah, we're always looking for presenters. I said, oh yeah. Because when she first suggested it, I thought, I'll just go and play some CDs and, whatever. But then she said, oh, you could play whatever you want. I said, I've got some of my own songs. Oh yeah. And then the thought just kept building, and, we've been in town about 3 or 4 months now, and I thought, it's time. It's time to sort of spread the word a bit. I mean, you don't want to just arrive in town in the first week and start making a freak show out of yourselves, and YAHUSHA, and they're like, what? Who are you?
You want to delay that freak show then, eh?
I've been delaying it. So
yeah, it is traumatizing. But we're not like a lot of them, I think, that are real severe and horribly critical and judgmental. It's all in presentation and the fact that you're not looking at one another. That's where we get into a lot of trouble. We start looking at each other,
Yeah.
So when you have a talk with Lou, you want it to be a live show, or you want to record it and then play it on the radio?
We'll just do what we normally do, basically. Yeah. And I'll, just like I was editing the shows for James Trim for his radio station, I'll edit it and cut a few songs in. And because I work better if I can just concentrate, I just stammer and stuff around a bit when it's live. So I'll be just, making an idiot of myself. So I'll cut it all together so it's a bit polished. And and then all I was really saying was it's a town where there's not much religion happening. So if we start coming in with all these conversations like we've probably had, they'll be like, what's all this about? So if we come in sort of chatting about everyday stuff and then throwing things in as well, and like I might ask Lou, why you keep talking about scripture, what's so, why is that text above any other text in the world? Why is that? You can talk about, we'll talk about things like that, because other people will be like, well, he's just talking scripture. I don't believe in scripture. So it's...
Yeah. Why don't we talk about the horoscopes instead?
Gotta take the dog. She's real old. She doesn't understand.
Does she have to go out?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Well,
see you later, sister.
See you, brother. Love you.
Love you too.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that I moved my hands so much while I was watching that last video. I'm going to have to control myself. I've been told by, Doris, if Doris is watching, she'll know.
Yeah.
She wants me to keep my hands still. And I'm going to try to do that.
That's like that joke, how do you shut an Italian man up? You tie his hands behind his back.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I've heard that. I think when I was very young.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So there's all sorts of questions and stuff on the email and Facebook and everything.
Yeah.
And,
you want to pick one and we can talk about it?
Yeah, definitely. Because it's all... The thing I realised was that it's all kind of tied in with the... I just lost your picture. Where is it?
A lot of people are trying to figure out a lot of things that are not really relevant to anything. They're just wanting to know details about the physical layout of something like Ezekiel's temple, or why it's even there. And, did he tell us? No, he didn't tell us. Okay. So anything that anybody wants to imagine about any subject is actually just their imagination and their guessing, So why are we off on that?
Yeah.
But a lot of times, though, translators are stumbling around because they're not Hebraically minded people in the first place, and they we get words like and, for, and to, and then sometimes they'll use the same Hebrew connection and use the word but as if it's a contrast, and then everything is turned on its head in the meaning. One of the best examples I know of is, I think it's Exodus or Shemoth, chapter 6, where, YAHUSHA is talking with Moshe. That's Moses, according to the translators. And he's saying, I was El Shaddai to Abraham, Ishak, and Yaakov, but by my name Yahuwah, I was not known to them, See, and it doesn't make any sense, because the same connection that they use for the word but in that text is the same connection and in the others. Like, I'm the Elohim of Abraham, and the Elohim of Ishak, and the Elohim of Yaakov, and then the same connection, and, instead, not but and, is, what was it? I have to read the text to get it exactly right, but the idea, though, is that he was saying, and by my name, Yahuwah, was I not known to them? So the word not is not really the idea that he was not known to them, but it was a question. And by my name, Yahuwah, was I not known to them? And you see, that was one of the things in ISR's translation that I really respected, Chris Koster.
Oh, so it's like they put a question mark on it. And wasn't I known to him as well? Like, I get it. Yeah.
Wasn't I? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, and then when you look back at it, you see them calling in the revealed scriptures, these men are making a covenant with Yahuwah and calling his name Yahuwah. And then if you go to Genesis or Bereshith, chapter 4, near the very end, Enosh, which is Hebrew for mankind, basically. The name Enosh, that's the grandson of Adam and Kuah, Sheth's son. Sheth has a son named Enosh, and then it says, and he began to call upon the name of Yahuwah. It says it right there. You see, so the translators are really mixed up,
Wow.
Mankind began to call upon the name of Yahuwah. Or,
I had a brother on Facebook this week saying he had to go away and he wanted to know what a really good translation of scripture was to get. He said, should I just stick with the Besorah? I said, yeah, the Besorah of YAHUSHA is great. I said there's the ISR scriptures. I said that's the one Lou prefers, and just little words that have changed here and there. I've probably asked you this before. Why do you favour that one? I know you're more familiar with it, but are there too many texts where you would read it in 2 or 3 different translations and go, yeah, I like this one better? Like James Trim's got his own version as well, hasn't he? And that's pretty...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And his is very, very good. The ISR has so many elements in there where key verses, like I was just citing one, that explained the fact that Yahuwah, what his name was known. And you know, his name and his word are the two essentials. And he talks about those two things constantly, as we do also, because he's in us. And so he wants to remind people about his name and his word. Now, his word isn't just the back channels of what is going on in the lists of priests' names and things like that. That's true, but his word that he's talking about that we obey is his covenant. But 10 words in the Hebrew, Asareth Hadabarim. Now that sounds really scary to most people, but Asareth is simply the Hebrew word for 10. And Hadabarim means the words. Hadabar. Dabar means word. Ha means the, and Dabarim is the plural for word, words. So that's his word that he wants us to obey. And when people recite it by memory, and they can go over the 10 words in their mind, then they're going to change. Their minds are reprogrammed, and they're not going to open up the horoscope page, and they're not going to use foul language, and because the presence of Yahuwah is really in them. And they begin to change inside slowly, and their outer behavior changes, you know.
It was interesting, last week you said that over all these years you've been studying, it hadn't dawned on you like this, that it all boiled down to the zodiac. And I thought that's interesting, like after 10 editions of fossilized customs and endless study and research, and you know, others would probably argue it all boils down to sun worship or Satan or other, and I just found it really interesting you pinpointed it right on the zodiac. The zodiac is just those 12 animals, isn't it, that we look up in the stars and see? Is that the
that's the idea.
Yeah.
That's the idea. That's the pattern that Babel followed, and everything basically branches off and fractures away from that center point. The idea that there's animals in the heavens, shapes of animals, and then deities of all sorts. And of course, what we call things might vary from language to language to language, but the ideas are still embedded in there, and the deception. And it's anything to obfuscate or to move people away from the idea that Yahuwah is the sovereign of esteem. And we dealt with that in the war in heaven, because the war in heaven is what this is really all about. The war in the heavenlies, meaning the unseen realm that's all around us, is filled with the spiritual realm, eternal, immortal beings that are creatures that were created by Yahuwah. And of course, his presence is it's infinite. He's all around everything. And he sustains everything as well. The immortal beings, though, are the things that are never going to pass away. That's why they're called immortal. They're not death prone. We're death prone because of the fall. We were immortal beings when Adam and Hawa were in the garden, tending the garden, which is a lovely thing to do. Anybody that can get out into the fresh air and work with the soil and see the plant life and the lush vegetation, and to work with that every day, and that's just a wonderful thing. And then to eat as you do, if you get hungry, you can just find something and eat it. The weather doesn't work against you. The soil doesn't work against you, and your body's not dying. It's just, the life and the happiness and the joy was just immeasurable, you know. And then the fall happened, and then we have we have this mortal body. The morte is the Latin word for death. So we have the word mortal, and that means death prone or prone to die. And so we are all dying in these vessels, although the spiritual component that we are also made up of is indwelling that machine that's dying. And when our machine part, if we want to call that word, I mean, not to mean that it is a mechanism. It's a biological mechanism, and it's failing slowly, you know. It has leprosy in a sense, but the human heart, though, is the mind that was instilled in us that is immortal. It has no death until the one that made it kills it. And that's one of the things that people fail to see, that YAHUSHA revealed to us, that we actually do possess something that can't be destroyed except by the one who made it. He said, fear rather the one that can kill both body and being in fire, in Gehenna. So, yeah. And people argue about that all the time, saying, no, those Babylonians did that. That's how we got that idea. And then they start attacking the translations, and so it just to support their doctrines. You know?
On the topic of immortality, I had a conversation today with a brother who's saying the whole I sent it to you. The whole Nephilim thing is a bit of a delusion. It doesn't go along with that. He thinks it's all a bit pagan and it's been tinkered with. But I mean, it's written in the text, isn't it?
Yeah, and Nephil is the Hebrew word for fallen. And I think his idea of a Nephil was giant.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily anywhere implied, but we can, if you want to make them giants, I mean, I don't see that word, the idea of a size that isn't involved, but Nephil is the word for fallen, and the plural is fallen ones, you know, more than one. The I-M makes it, or Yod, and then makes it plural.
Yeah, he said it's a tough guy, or a warmonger, mighty men. But, I mean, you look at...
Well, these are fallen beings that inhabited the bodies that they had created for themselves in the women, because they were tinkering with the genetics, as we see that Monsanto and other corporations are doing now. They're trying to patent their modifications and their plant life, and they're, you know, tinkering with animals is going on as well. It's just a little bit too monstrous for them to make it widespread, and so, you know, they're not like pulling out the weird animals that they're making and showing you the things on film. A lot of secrets are going on. In fact, if you go to the internet right now and you I'm trying to do some research on various things all the time, and the internet is now the best resource. It's like the world library. But they still hide things. You go to a web page when you're like searching for objects that have the name of Yahuwah on them from the past. There's actually people that have treasures, scholarly people that have treasures, and they're hoarding these things, not individuals so much, but the groups of people who don't want people to find out things. And they will say on the web page, you are blocked from this. You do not have authorization to see this page. Wow. You have to be one of the elites to be able to even see the page. You know, the pictures and objects that they have. And so, you know, and then this is going on, I'm sure, in the scientific community, tinkering around with genomes and, you know, biological things.
What led you to want to research obviously a love for the name, but what led you to want to research all the possible physical evidence of his name?
Well, the fact that YAHUSHA's always speaking to his children, and he wanted, I think, I was listening to his voice in me, and he was the one that was guiding me to just bring this up. One of the texts that really always intrigued me was, and it's not well understood by Christians, and that is that when he was entering the city of Jerusalem, it was obviously around the 10th day of the Hebrew calendar when the lamb was being selected in the spring. And the lamb has to be selected on the 10th day of the first month. And that was the day of his triumphal entry. And he was riding on the foal, or on a donkey, a young donkey that had never been ridden on. And he was going into Jerusalem. And all the people were saying, Baruch haba B'Shem Yahuwah, which means blessed is the one who's coming in the name of Yahuwah, from Psalm 118. And they were pronouncing the name. Pronouncing the name was not allowed. The hierarchy, the Sanhedrin, and all the people that had inherited the doctrine to not know the name, they had actually succeeded in people not knowing the name. He had to reveal it to those that were given to him. So when all these people were saying this, and then he replied, the Pharisees said, rebuke your disciples, rebuke your taught ones, your Talmudim, because they were saying the name. I mean, they didn't say that they were saying the name, but it's obvious why the Pharisees and the scribes would have been upset, because they were indoctrinated to not say the name, but to say another name, another word, a substitution.
Yeah.
They used the word Adonai, which means my sovereign, instead of saying the name. So they would say Adonai, and they still do. Or they might just say another substitute word. But anyway, when he was saying that, his response to them was, well, if they did not say this, the stones would cry out. The stones would cry out. And then it went into well, I'm sure he gave me the idea that the stones would cry out this name. And then I thought, well, that means that his name is written somewhere on stone. And the stones would cry out, and the evidence of the name would be there. And it isn't like the scholarly community and the ecclesiastical bodies haven't known the name. They do know the name, and they've always known the name. It was used in the movie Ten Commandments. It was the Paleo-Hebrew, the ancient Hebrew, not the modern Hebrew Aramaic script, but not that square script, but the original writing was on the tablets that Charlton Heston was holding. And it was also the same script was used on that headpiece that was used in Raiders of the Lost Ark. So even the movie theater people, the movie makers of this era, were able to go to and get consultation on how to write something, and they were given the correct, not only the correct words, but the correct script. It wasn't translated into Adonai or Lord or Baal or anything like that.
Hollywood can get it almost right, and yet the whole of Christendom, it's just gone over their head.
Yeah, well, as I'm going to bring up in the next seminar, that there's actually two main groups. Of course, who's guiding these groups.
This is spoiler alert, is it?
No, it isn't. But the two main groups that have been hiding the name have been, first and foremost, the Yahudim, the establishment is what I'm talking about, not the common everyday person, but the establishment had made this policy to conceal the name and not utter it ever. And the death penalty was imposed on anyone who did say it. And then the other body, the other group that wants to hide the name is the descendants of the catechetical school of Alexandria that we today know as Christianity. They don't want it to be known either. Now, I'm not talking about the average person. I'm talking about the ones that are the layered. They put themselves into an upper structure, the hierarchy and the laity. See, there is no hierarchy and laity. That's all wrong. We're all brothers. Some of us are to have the ability to teach so that everybody is the same. But to make future elders. But you see, the thing of it is, the hierarchy wants to be in charge of both of these groups. There's a Sanhedrin mindset and a commoner that can't understand things because they're not righteous enough or whatever it might be. And then there's the Catholic side of it, or the Christian side of it, which makes a hierarchy, a select elite group. They're elite-minded. And then there's the people, which is the word laity. Laity just means people, the common people. Well, laity is everyone, really. There are no class structures. And that's the main problem, that division and that holding information back. And they want to maintain the control. And this is one of the main things they want to control. So what happened in 1947, when this little Bedouin shepherd, a young boy, was trying to control this little goat, and the goat had gone up this wall of rock, and it entered into a hole, and this boy was throwing rocks into the hole, and he heard the shattering of something like pottery. And he goes up there himself, and he finds this enormous collection of jars. And that's the Dead Sea Scrolls. That was Cave 1. And there's a number of caves that have been found. 90% of all the fragments were found in Cave 4. But here's the thing. Why were they there? Well, that's one of the things I'm going to discuss too. What is the Dead Sea Scroll issue? And what was Qumran? What was the community that was called Qumran? Was it a sect, or the Qumran sect, they call it? And they don't know who they were exactly, but they guess, because all they've got are just foundational walls and things like that. But they know that it was a scrollery of some kind. Well, what was really going on was they didn't want to throw the name away, so people would take a document that they'd written the name on, let's say a piece of paper, a letter, a contract, or anything, and they would find the name written on it, this name right here, and it may have been written in Aramaic, and they would tear the thing off and put it in a place so that they wouldn't throw it away, so that it wouldn't be discarded and burned or mixed in with something yucky, So they would collect all these things, and they had this procedure, and these things were taken away for, obviously, for centuries. And everybody that was mindful of this would collect their little shards and little pieces of bits of paper, and they would, because the name was preserved on these documents, and they would throw them into a collection place, and then the scrollery would take scrolls of scripture and copy them carefully as they were. A scripture would wear out, and they would carefully copy them. That was what was going on at Qumran. They had tables and inkwells and scribes that were working to copy carefully each letter and word of scripture, and then they would take the old scroll, put it into a jar, and retire it to a cave that would be nearby in the hills somewhere, and then the new scroll would go back and put into use. But along with that, there were all these little fragments. That's why you see these long tables the Jesuits lay out. Well, that's another point. In 1949, when the news, well, no, it was actually, the news was before that, but these objects started to come onto the market, from the caves. And the first ones to swoop down on this were the Jesuits. And the scroll team was formed in 1953, actually. The first scroll team. It was a team of all Catholics, And there were no Jews, no Yahudim at all, which is very odd. Here we are in the land of Israel, the area of Qumran, north of the Dead Sea, just south of the area of Jerusalem, and there's all these speculations going on, and the Catholics basically just took full control over this source, which was there because Hashatan, the dragon, knows the name is what this place was all about. This place called Qumran and the Dead Sea Scrolls, because it's near the Dead Sea, and all these caves where the documents were in jars, was all about the name. And the dragon's been trying to destroy the name. Just as pharaohs used to erase the names of previous pharaohs, a pharaoh would build this huge thing and then put his name on it in a cartouche, and then the next pharaoh would come along and go, chink, and have, well, he would, not personally, but he'd have the other pharaoh's name erased and put his own name there. It's just what the dragon's been doing, So by substitution, we have this thing going on. And the objects that have the name Yahuwah written on them, stone, metal, coins, pottery, etc., they're very closely guarded by the hierarchy, and it's kept from the common people. And this is why this research is very important, and why YAHUSHA said what he said when he came into the city.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all related.
Isn't that exciting? Yeah. There's a restoration happening.
There is. And the Dead Sea Scrolls, the full story is not told, because you hear bits and pieces of it, and it all just sounds like a giant mystery. But the mystery is only about the name. Because the scholars know why those things are in there, because they see his name on it. And they go, oh, that's right. They wouldn't throw this away. Now, there's not really the commandment says you shall not destroy the name of Yahuwah. And the name is a written thing in one case, but to destroy his name is to not use his name. To misuse it in such a way that you don't even hear it. Which is interesting. And Paul addressed that very subject too when he was talking about how will they hear unless someone is sent to speak to them. And of course they use the word preach. But if you don't speak the name, how will they hear the name? Then he goes on and says, well, how will they speak the name if they're not sent? And he's only talking about the name.
Yeah.
But the Christians, they have they've got a certain kind of glasses that they put on, and they only see through their doctrines. So they're blocking out a lot of light. There, my hands go again.
Yeah. It's amazing to me. I mean, we've only been immersed 7 or 8 years now, and when I first met you and found your teachings, and a group of us met you and we started researching and stuff, there didn't seem to be much on the internet that we could see. There wasn't many groups, or Facebook wasn't around back then. And now it's just like his name is just going forth. So old people, young people, because all the old people are starting to get really internet savvy, and all the young people who are brought up with it are starting to know the name, and everybody's wanting to be rebellious and stand out, and so they don't care now if they believe in the name, they put it out there, and in the Paleo Hebrew, and it's just such a massive thing now. Whereas when I first started making videos and stuff, you wouldn't get much response. There wasn't much on, you Google the name Yahuwah, and the only stuff that would come up was pretty much your stuff. And now there's just so much stuff. It's amazing the speed at which things are going forth, good and bad. So, amazing.
Well, it's not a matter of who was first. That doesn't matter. But what does matter is that his name is going out, and they're finding it out. And I had told for a long time, many years, that I was trying to get ISR, the Institute for Scripture Research, to print the subsequent new copies of the version in the Paleo Hebrew for the name of Yahuwah and the name of YAHUSHA in Paleo Hebrew letters rather than the Aramaic. The Aramaic is basically named after a man named Aram, and it was the script was the Babylonian style letter shapes, and they brought that back with them from the captivity when they were taken into Babylon by Nebuchadnezzar. And they were there for 70 years. A whole generation, actually more than one generation, was born there. So we inherited the Aramaic script from Babylonians. And that's not meaning that it's evil. It's just that that's the script that most people understand as Hebrew. But the ancient Hebrew, the original Hebrew, was identified by scholars as, what was the term? Oh, they call it Phoenician, which is a two-part word, phoniki, and it's Greek. Phoniki is Greek, and that was invented by a man, as far as we know, named Herodotus in the 5th century BCE. Herodotus was trying to identify the people who populated the seacoast of what we know as the land of Israel. And they called the people Phoenicians. What? They didn't call themselves Phoenicians. And phoniki means date palm, because that was the, what people remember from that. From the Greeks, at least, thought of them as, that's where the date palms come from, or the dates. And they just called the people by what term they perceived. And so now we're looking at alphabet lists, and we're saying, oh, those are the Phoenician script. And you know what? The Hebrews stole that from the Phoenicians. They were sea peoples. We don't know where they came from. What? Yeah, we knew where they came from. Well, the logic of the matter is the Phoenicians were the Israelites, and they had a sea empire. They had colonies all over the world. You see languages of the Polynesians, certain Hebrew terms like kahuna, that comes from the Hebrew word kohen, and there's all these waymarks like the peoples and the places, the Danube River, we've talked about all that, Hibernia, Iberia, these, in places like Brazil, well, it's a Hebrew word, because Israel was a sea empire. That's why we want to get let me get my helmet, just a moment.
Yeah. Didn't you say Phyllis bought you a captain's hat?
Well, yes.
Sea captain's hat?
Yes. And anyway.
Oh, put it on again. The ratings will go through the roof.
Really? Okay. Well.
In complaints, that is.
Oh, righty. Now this thing, when I get on my motorcycle, it really gets people's attention. They see that. What?
You look like an opera singer.
Wow. Yeah, I'm thinking we ought to get a band going. If I can ever move to Malakuta, we can just get a band. Everybody can wear these.
Yeah.
And we make some guitars out of boat oars.
Yeah.
And we can have a trumpet section.
Yeah.
With shofars.
Yes. Have you got some of those lying around? That you got some new shofars in?
Yes, I do, but they're not here. David picked them up from here and took them over to the islands. Yeah. We call it the islands. Yeah. We call Torah Institute the islands.
Of course. Who doesn't want an island?
Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, these sea peoples were trying to make themselves look scary. And they made their ships, the bow of the ship, they made it look like a dragon or some kind of beast, because there was a lot of propaganda being put out by the sea peoples to keep the Romans and the Greeks inside their little bathtub we call the Mediterranean Sea. They didn't want them going out and finding them. And if they saw somebody following them, they would take diversive action. They didn't want them to lead them to the colony. So that's all history that you hardly ever hear. Let me put this back. Anyway, it's really interesting.
Yeah, the conquerors, the dominant ones, write the new history, don't they? Get rid of the truth.
yeah, the conqueror is the one that writes history. Yeah. Can you see me okay now?
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, great. Okay.
Did the board of directors at the ISR, did they ever give you a reason why they chose not to go with the Paleo Hebrew? Because that's the one thing that the Hallelujah Scriptures lifts itself up on, that the fact that they've got the... We're the only ones that have the Paleo. It's like, well, what about Basora? It's got Paleo, you know? It's been done.
Well,
it's been done.
The original Septuagint used the Paleo Hebrew. And so now, for those that don't know what the Septuagint is, it was in the 2nd century BCE when the first translation outside of Hebrew was being made into Greek. And the Greek letters were going left to right, and then there would be a word that was in the original Hebrew, the Paleo Hebrew, the ancient Hebrew, that was the name, and they wouldn't change that name when they would write the Greek. So the original Septuagint contains the original name.
In Hebrew?
In Hebrew.
So you've got a Greek text with Hebrew name.
Right.
That's great.
And I was telling the board of directors at ISR that it would be the first time since the Septuagint that this would ever happen. And then someone else started doing it. And probably others are doing it too. So ISR just sort of missed out on that. And their reasoning was that they thought that if they changed the font to the original Hebrew from the Aramaic, that it would somehow bump words off pages, and the whole thing would change the pagiation. And I'm thinking, that's not likely, you know. And what would it matter? You can go back and adjust that too, you know.
A formatting issue.
Yeah, formatting issue. But if someone else can do it, they can do it. They could have done it too. Well, anyway, that's a foregone conclusion there. They lost that opportunity. But you know, that's it's all a matter of what Yahuwah allows, what He puts on people's hearts. Many people have asked me to make a translation of mine that I would of course not copyright a thing like that. I would say, these aren't my words. I mean, what do we have that we weren't given? You know, if I'm going to say this is mine, I'm going to hoard this. No, the electronic version would be the one that everybody would really like, and it would be free. And ISR's version is free too, and anybody can use it. They just don't like you to print it. And I don't really see why that would be, because the world system, the mindset of the world is, this is mine and you can't do it. You can't have this. Well, and I'm not, you know, criticizing them. I'm just saying that in general, it's strange that Yahuwah's words would have a copyright or a patent on any originality that someone came up with. But the idea that if you write a book, and yeah, you can copyright that, I would say. Yeah. But you didn't write the scriptures, did you? You know, you translated a Hebrew word into an English word. Woohoo! What was that? You know, did you write the Hebrew word? No. Who did? Well, the mind of Yahuwah. The mind of Yahuwah is in the translators, or it's not.
Yeah.
But I'm not judging. I'm just saying it's a strange. You know, the world system though wants to think, well, let's apply this world system standards to the scriptures, and let's copyright them. You know,
copyright's a big pain. It's such a pain.
Oh, it is. And then you got to maintain the thing. And you're paying a lawyer, and then they've got to get registered with the government. Well, yeah, the governments are another problem, aren't they?
The thing that gets me is, it's one thing to do things illegally and download things illegally and stuff, but if you were to, the thing that gets me is if you were to buy, you go out and you pay money for a CD or a video or a DVD or something like that, then they say you can't play it in a group that's more than 10 people, or you can't play it on, you can't play your CD on the radio, you can't put that song on YouTube. But I bought the song, I paid money for it. You know, like it's a real, it's just a pain in the neck. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it's more than 10 people or whatever.
Yeah. So in this translation that you're going to do, are you? Is there anything you would, if you ever get to it, is there anything you would change? Is there something you've come across in your research? Say, oh yeah, I think I'd replace these words or.
Yeah, there's a lot of little nuances that I would change that would completely change the character and the meaning of the sentences. But you know what? And now you're making me think off the top of my head, and I'm going to have to open up something. And I have this one pet scripture that someone recently asked me about, and I need to get this exact text so that I can do it. I have to look up key words in order to find this script exactly. Yeah. There's a few things in the Tanakh. What the Tanakh is the Torah, the Nebiim, and the Ketubim. It's an acronym, and it stands for the law, the prophets, and the writings. Actually, the word law is a little inaccurate. It's instructions, but anyway, the Torah is what we talk about. This is a TorahTalk thing. But in Colossians chapter 2, verse 16, starting at that, it's really 16 and 17. Now, the chapters, the verses of the scriptures are kind of new. That's why they didn't know exactly where to refer to them. But, that's why I don't mind stumbling around either, because, but I like to be accurate. Colossians chapter 2, starting at verse 16, says, and it's right after that text we talked about with, the handwriting that was against us, that was taken out of the way, a list of accusations, the chirographin. Anyway, right after that part of the text, it says that let no one therefore judge you in eating or in drinking or in respect of a festival or a new moon or Sabbaths, which are a shadow of what is to come. And then it says, but the body of the Messiah. And if you read that 20 times, you're going to say, what in the world does that even mean? And then if you read the King James Version, it says this, let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink or in respect of a holy day or of a new moon or of the Sabbath days. And they added the word days, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Christ. Okay? All right, if you keep reading that, you're going, okay, what in the world does that mean? Well, it's talking about several things there. It's talking about new moons, Sabbaths, festival days, food and drink. And it would lead a Christian to believe that you can eat anything you want, anytime you want, and you're not to be judged by anyone in any matter at all. But it's talking about a shadow of something. The shadow. Well, that's the shadow is the thing that we're talking about that's being cast by something else. And that's what we understand now, knowing that the festivals and the Sabbaths and the new moons are all shadowing and pointing to something. It's not so much a reflection, but it's a shape. It's an outline. Like you would cast a shadow. It's not, the shadow is not the thing itself. It's not the object, but it is an outline. And what those things are is an outline. And then the last part of that after that says, but the body is of Christ. And that just hangs in the air until you understand what it's really saying. Because it's referring to the shadow. And here's what it should be saying. It shouldn't be saying, but the body of the Messiah. It should be saying, for the body of the Messiah. And when you take that little article, that little word, and you don't make it a contrasting thing, but you make it the object of what the point is, then it makes complete sense. Because they've deprived you of the prize by making it appear that you can just be as lawless as you want. But the whole object of this is, it should be, let no one therefore judge you in eating or in drinking or in respect of a festival, or a new moon or Sabbath, which are shadows of what is to come, but for the body of Messiah. It's a shadow for the body. It's a guideline. It's an outline that we understand now. Now, that's still not going to make a lot of sense to people because they don't know what the festivals are. See, the festivals of Israel are what is the pattern or the outline that point to various fulfillments. You know, like Passover, Shavuot, unleavened bread, and all that. And the first fruits, which are in the springtime, which is a shadow of the resurrection. You know. But Christians don't know. If you just walked up to your average Christian pastor and said, what was first fruits? They would probably be dismissive and say, well, that's something that the Jews had to do. We don't have to do that. We don't even have to observe that. Well, and then you could ask him, well, what did it represent? He would be clueless, just like the high priest that was doing the wave sheaf. The wave sheaf, or the omer that they would go out and cut, barley that would be like grass that would just flash up and go into the seed. It's like your grass goes to seed out here. If you don't cut your lawn, then the grass just grows up in about 2 weeks and it goes to seed. Well, that's what they went out and they grabbed that in the spring and they would wave it before Yahuwah in the temple. The high priest would wave it, not just some guy on the road, you know, but they would. Everybody didn't do it. It was one guy that did it. And this was a representation of the first fruits from all of the harvest of mankind. It's a shadow. And this shadow was YAHUSHA himself that was offered and then resurrected. He died and then he came back to life. That's what the moving is all about. The priest is moving this as if it's blowing in the wind again. It's been cut down, and now it's moving again, like it's not a problem.
Fantastic.
You see?
Yeah.
The high priest had no clue what that represented. He was just told to do it. You know what, Mark? I'm going to have to go. I have to actually get on the highway and drive.
Yeah.
And I'll be saying the commandments, and I'll be praying for Chris.
Yeah.
And Victoria, and Lisa, and all of you guys. So I'm going to have to go.
It's a pleasure talking to you again, mate. Yeah.
Well, same here. We love you.
Yeah, we'll be in touch.
Sorry to be so brief. But
no, it's great. You do what you got to do.
Next week, same time?
We'll do.
Okay. Maybe next week I won't have to work right away in the morning. I usually schedule it in the afternoon for that day. Okay. But I'll see what I can do for that time.
Okay. Love you, mate.
Love you. Bye-bye.
See you later.
People, it's all or nothing now. You're either a weed or you are Donnell. You're breaking my heart with your unbelief. I ain't gonna wait forever. Who do you think you're fooling? Who do you think you're fooling? You're either hot or you are cold. And people, it's all or nothing now. I am speaking into your heart, but you're chasing shadows. We keep moving further apart. I'm so near and you're so far. Do you care now? Will you follow? People, it's all or nothing now. You're either a weed or you are Donnell. You're breaking my heart with your unbelief. I ain't gonna wait forever. Who do you think you're fooling? Who do you think you're fooling? You're either hot or you are cold. And people, it's all or nothing now.
Keep rejoicing, keep on loving, stay obedient.
breaking my heart with your unbelief. I ain't gonna wait forever. Who do you think you're fooling? Who do you think you're fooling? You're either hot or you are cold. And people, it's all or nothing now. People now. Who do you think you're fooling? Who do you think you're fooling? You're either hot or you are cold. And people, it's all or nothing now. You're either wheat or tear. You're breaking my heart with your unbelief. I ain't gonna wait forever. Who do you think you're fooling? Who do you think you're fooling? You're either hot or you are cold. And people, it's all or nothing now. Oh, now. Who do you think you're fooling? Who do you think you're fooling? People, you're hot or you are cold. And people, it's all or nothing now.
YAHUSHA's in us, so what have we to hide? A secret is brewing, a power deep inside. The bride's being purified, the garments made pure white. The mystery is ending.